How's the weather? Makes you want to disappear into the floor. What do you do for work? Feels like psychological torture. While everyone else is chatting effortlessly about nothing, you're standing there thinking, why are we discussing the temperature when we could be talking about literally anything meaningful? You're not antisocial. You're not rude. Your brain is just wired to crave deeper connection patterns. And small talk feels like emotional fast food when you're starving for a real meal. And according to psychology, that difference reveals something profound about how your mind processes human connection. Let's start with what small talk actually is, from a neurological perspective. For most people, casual conversation activates the brain's social bonding circuits without requiring significant cognitive effort. It's like social warm-up exercises. Low stakes, low investment, but it gets the connection muscles moving. But for some brains, small talk doesn't activate those same reward pathways. Instead, it triggers what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable feeling you get when you're forced to engage in behavior that conflicts with your deeper values or needs. Psychology identifies different types of conversational processors. Most people are Phatic communicators. They use conversation primarily for social bonding rather than information exchange. The content doesn't matter as much as the connection ritual. But some people are substantive communicators. They need conversations to have meaning, purpose, or depth to feel engaging. When someone asks, "How was your weekend?" Phatic communicators here, let's connect and show we care about each other. But substantive communicators here, let's exchange meaningless pleasantries while avoiding any real communication. Same words, completely different emotional experience. And here's what's fascinating about small talk. From an anthropological perspective, it's basically a social safety protocol. In most cultures, jumping straight into deep topics with strangers or acquaintances violates social norms. Small talk serves as a way to test social compatibility and establish rapport before moving to more vulnerable territory. But people who struggle with small talk often prefer to skip that testing phase. They'd rather have one authentic conversation than 10 superficial ones. Their brain doesn't need the social warm-up period because they're already ready for genuine connection. Research from psychologist Matthias Mell found that people who avoid small talk and prefer substantial conversations report higher levels of life satisfaction and well-being. They're not missing out on social connection. They're seeking a more concentrated, meaningful version of it. There's a psychological concept called conversational depth preference that explains why some people find small talk emotionally exhausting rather than energizing. Your brain is constantly seeking patterns, insights, and authentic information. Small talk provides none of these things, so it feels like running mental software without getting any useful output. And let's talk about what happens in your brain during forced small talk. While Phatic communicators get a dopamine hit from social interaction, substantive communicators often experience what researchers call social understimulation. It's like being hungry and being offered candy instead of food. Technically, it's consumption, but it doesn't satisfy the actual need. Here's something that might blow your mind. People who hate small talk often have higher levels of social anxiety, but not in the way you might think. They're not afraid of people. They're afraid of meaningless interaction. The anxiety comes from being forced to engage in communication that feels inauthentic or pointless. This is why many small talk-averse people excel in one-on-one, deeper conversations, but struggle at parties or networking events. It's not about introversion versus extraversion. It's about conversation quality versus conversation quantity. Psychology shows that substantive communicators often have what's called high cognitive empathy. They want to actually understand people rather than just interact with them. When someone asks, "How are you?" they're genuinely curious about the real answer, not just performing social ritual. But most small talk isn't designed for real answers. And there's something beautiful about this preference for meaningful conversation. While others are having the same surface-level exchanges with dozens of people, you're having conversations that people remember years later. Quality versus quantity in conversational investment. But here's where small talk-averse people often struggle. In professional and social settings, the ability to engage in casual conversation is often seen as a social skill indicator. People who can't or won't participate in small talk are sometimes labeled as difficult, standoffish, or antisocial, even when they're perfectly capable of deep, meaningful communication. The truth is, you're not lacking social skills. You're just using a different social operating system. While others are running broad network, shallow connection software, you're running narrow network, deep connection software. Both have advantages and disadvantages. Research also reveals that people who prefer substantial conversation often have stronger long-term relationships, but fewer casual acquaintances. They'd rather have 5 friends who really know them than 50 acquaintances who can make pleasant weather conversation. And let's be honest about what drives so much small talk in our current moment. It's often a way to fill uncomfortable silence without risking vulnerability. People talk about safe external topics, weather, traffic, current events, because it allows interaction without personal revelation. But small talk averse people often prefer meaningful silence to meaningless conversation. They're comfortable with quiet moments because they're not afraid of their own thoughts or the thoughts of others. They don't need constant verbal input to feel socially connected. Here's what's really happening when people can't understand your small talk difficulty. They use casual conversation as social lubrication. It makes interactions feel smooth and comfortable. When you don't participate in that system, they sometimes feel like they can't connect with you, even though you're perfectly willing to connect, just differently. But you're not rejecting connection. You're requiring authentic connection. There's a difference between being antisocial and being selective about the quality of your social interactions. Psychology shows that substantive communicators often excel in crisis situations, therapeutic relationships, and creative collaborations because they're comfortable with depth, emotion, and meaningful exchange. They're the people others turn to for real advice, honest feedback, and genuine support. And there's something quietly revolutionary about refusing to engage in meaningless small talk. In a world where so much communication is performative, surface level, and designed to avoid real connection, insisting on substance is almost radical. People who struggle with small talk often report feeling like they're living in a world designed for a different type of brain. Everyone else seems to effortlessly navigate casual conversation while they're internally screaming, "Can we please talk about something that matters?" But here's the thing that small talk enthusiasts don't always understand. Not everyone needs the same social warm-up period. Some people are ready for real conversation immediately. They don't need to discuss the weather to feel safe talking about ideas, feelings, or experiences. So the next time someone criticizes your inability to make small talk, remember this: your brain isn't broken. It's just calibrated for depth over breadth, meaning over ritual, authenticity over performance. And in a world increasingly starved for genuine human connection, that might be exactly what we need. You're not failing at social interaction. You're holding it to a higher standard. And honestly, more people could probably benefit from raising their conversational standards too. Are you someone who finds small talk impossible? Or do you love casual conversation? What do you think drives our need for meaningful versus surface level communication? Let me know, because I suspect there are a lot more people out there who crave substantial conversation than our small talk heavy culture might suggest. To get more psychology content like this in your feed, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share your experiences with us. You'll be supporting our efforts too. Thanks for watching.